Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Renee Barela Gutierrez, and I'm the hearing officer for our public hearing this afternoon. And we have a couple of items on the agenda. So, Alex, if I could ask you to list the first item, please.
Yes, ma'am. Item 2A on the agenda is request from BW Gas and Convenience Retail LLC for the following item. Number one is pursuant to section 60-6B-10 NMSA 1978, consideration of a waiver of the 300-foot location restriction to allow the sale of alcohol at all subs number 102-345 305 North Guadalupe Street, which is within 300 feet of Carlos Gilbert Elementary School, located at 300 Griffin Street. And number two, if the waiver of the 300-foot location restriction is granted, consideration of a request for a transfer of ownership and location of dispenser liquor license number 06874 with package sales only from Lodge of Santa Fe, 750 North St. Francis Drive to all subs number 102-345 305 North Guadalupe Street.
Thank you, Alex. And who do we have on behalf of the applicant on this application? Hello. I think you're on mute.
Andy.
Oh.
Madam Hearing Officer, my name is Andrew Vallejos. I'm the attorney for BW Gas in this matter.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Vallejos, and welcome to the meeting. We won't have you sworn in. As an attorney, you're already bound to be truthful in a public hearing, so I appreciate that. I did have the opportunity to take a look at the application. Mr. Vallejos, is there anything that you would like to add to it at this time?
Not add to it, Madam Hearing Officer, but we do have a preliminary matter to sort of discuss concerning the 300-foot rule, and that's and if I could go ahead and just sort of kind of lay out what we're dealing with. So, just to give a sense of where we're at with this. I'm sure that you know downtown Santa Fe very well since you're from Santa Fe, but it's the Allsups has been there at 305 Guadalupe for some time now. It just didn't have any liquor service. And I'm just going to try to paint a word picture here. If you then go looking due east, up toward the Sangre de Cristos, then that's where Carlos Gilbert Elementary will be. In between the Allsups and the elementary school is actually a 4 to 5 story building that houses the law offices of the public defender and their parking lot. And then we also, beyond that, is a bus roundabout that's sort of the preliminary issue we want to talk about. And then you get into the school proper, right? Then you have the boundary fence for the playground, which is on the west side of the school. And the administrative offices are up closer toward the mountains, pointing toward the mountains. And so under the case law, City of Santa Fe versus Tomata, one of the issues, it clarified for us doing these 300-foot hearings that we measure from the licensed premise, not necessarily from the property line, following the ABC regulation, which states it's a measurement from the licensed premise to the area, and this is a term of art, regularly conducted educational functions. So the mere ownership of a piece of property does not necessarily meet the functionality tests that the Supreme Court laid out. Really, it's a fact finding to sort of see if the activities that we're measuring to would be, as the reg says, regularly conducted educational functions. And so in Hughes versus UNM Regents, in that case, there was a parking lot next to another convenience store. In that case, the hearing officer said that it did not meet the educational function test. It was just merely a parking lot that was incidental to the educational activities. And so while we'll clearly concede that the playground area and the fence that goes around the western part of Carlos Gilbert is regularly conducted educational functions like recess, going out on the grass or going out, and having other educational functions there. But the question is this bus roundabout? Is that regularly conducted educational functions, or is it merely incidental? So, for example, the example I give is like in Albuquerque, there are a lot of parking lots, of course, in there that are used for bus drop-offs. But there are times that like bus drop-offs are just on the street, like in front of the school. And because this is a relatively dense area of Santa Fe, it's kind of tightly packed. Um, that bus roundabout doesn't seem to be used for anything except the very incidental of morning drop-offs and afternoon pickups, and no other use you really accept for that. And it's very tangential. One could argue that it's more to alleviate probably traffic congestion in that really tightly narrow street, Catron, right? And so it's more a convenience of the buses being able to turn around quickly and go in and get out. The bus drivers, of course, do not stay at the school or in that bus roundabout area. They get shipped off to parts unknown. but we first like to make the argument, because if you measure from the licensed premise to the area that surrounds the property line that surrounds the school itself and excludes the bus roundabout, then it's over 300 feet. It's 390 feet to that property. If you include the roundabout, it's less than 300 feet. So then it becomes a fact issue about whether or not this area is used for educational functions and where we should be measuring. We know where we're measuring from. It's to determine where we're measuring to. So preliminarily, if I'm making any sense to anybody, that's what we'd like to have a determination on from you, is whether or not we're measuring from the licensed premise to the bus roundabout, or to what we would advocate as the actual playground area, beginning of the playground area, which is the regularly conducted educational function part, and we had conceded that part. So I don't know if you want to make a determination now, or you want us to get into waiver arguments and give more context to where we're at. I'll take your lead.
Okay, thank you. I don't think that I'd want to make a determination on that right now, just based on my cursory overview of the application and any additional information that I might need. I appreciate your citations to the law, and I've noted them. I'll note that the letter from the New Mexico Regulation and Licensing Department is stating that you're asking for a waiver of the required distance based on, and it doesn't say specifically based on where, but let me ask, Alex, did we get any comments from the school or from anybody else with regard to this application?
There were no written comments received, and nobody's currently in the waiting room. And also a letter was sent to the school it's included in the packet, but September 20th. So they were notified about this request.
Thank you. So Mr. Vallejos, I don't know that based on the application on its face, it looks like it meets the requirements. The waiver, the school was notified of the waiver, and we have not received, as Alex stated, any comments opposing that waiver, the granting of that waiver, and no comments from anybody at the school regarding this application. So I'm kind of inclined to approve the application subject to conditions and have it move forward, unless you feel strongly that you want to make a waiver argument.
I'm sorry, could you just clarify for me? You would want to proceed with approval of the application without a waiver?
No, the waiver would be granted based on the application itself and the fact that we didn't receive any written or verbal objections, and we didn't receive an objection from the school. Okay. So the waiver itself would be granted and the application would move forward.
Okay. Can I just throw in a couple of other arguments just to maybe bolster the waiver
Sure.
On that? Couple things are important here. This is for package only. This is not like a nightclub. This is not a tavern. There's not going to be people sitting there. There are no seating areas, anything like that. The other thing I'd take note of is elementary schools are closed campuses, right? Kids do not get released from school. Now, high schools are sometimes open campuses, and that gets a little tricky. But elementary school kids cannot leave the campus, and so and because there's that huge barrier between of the law offices of the public defenders, that basically it is out of sight, out of mind, because you can't even see the Allseps from because of that building, even from the bus roundabout. And so, and it's both a physical barrier and like a temporal barrier, as well. So there's a lot of buffer areas here on that. And then I'd also just note that although we're close enough, there is another licensed applicant directly across the street from the entrance of Carlos Gilbert Elementary, and that's Cafe Katrin. And Cafe Katrin has a restaurant beer and wine license there. And so they must have had a waiver at some point as well, because unless they got grandfathered in before 1981, they would have had to have a waiver. So we think a waiver would be appropriate as well here.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate all of that effort that you've put into that, and I'm sure it took some time to put that together. So I do appreciate that. Again, Mr. Vallejos, I think what I'd like to do is approve the waiver and the application for as submitted for packaged liquor, subject to one condition, which is that the applicant would comply with all city ordinances. And do you have any problem with that?
Is there anything specific that we need that you're referring to, or just because in general?
No, it's nothing specific. It's a general requirement.
Yeah, we would agree to that. That Allseps is a very reputable company, and they try to comply with every ordinance. Not a problem.
Okay. Well, then what I'll do is I'll prepare a written hearing officer report, and that report will include my findings and conclusions. It'll be moved on to the governing body for their consideration at their next available meeting. And that will include the packet and the application as a whole.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Vallejos. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Alex, do we have another item on the agenda this afternoon?
Yes, ma'am. Item 2B on the agenda is request from Santa Fe Asian Market LLC for the following. Number 1, pursuant to section 60-6B-10 NMSA 1978, consideration of a waiver of the 300-foot location restriction to allow the sale of alcohol at Joy's Sushi Bar, 1644 St. Michael's Drive, which is within 300 feet of Milagro Middle School, located at 1720 Llano Street. And number 2, if the waiver of the 300-foot location restriction is granted, consideration of a request for a restaurant A beer and wine liquor license with on-premises consumption only to be located at Joy's Sushi Bar, 1644 St. Michael's Drive.
Thank you, Alex. And who do we have on behalf of the applicant for this application? I think you're on mute, Mr. N.
That's so annoying. I'm so sorry. Anyhow, hello and good afternoon. My name is Adela Duran. I'm serving as the agent for Santa Fe Asian Market and doing business as Joy's Sushi Bar.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Duran. Welcome to the meeting. Mr. Duran, if I could have our city clerk swear you in before we proceed.
Sure. I'm also an attorney. I'm not serving as an attorney in this case, but if I need to be sworn in, then I'm happy to do that.
I think I'd like to have you sworn in just to.
Okay, sure.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Adela Duran, 141 East Palace Avenue, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87501.
Do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalties of perjury?
I do.
Ms. Strand has been sworn in.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duran. I appreciate that. So I also looked at this application. This is for the waiver of the distance. It's also, if approved, for a restaurant A beer and wine license. I did have a chance to look at the application. Is there anything else that you would like to add to it at this time?
No, Madam Hearing Officer, I have not done one of these where we've requested a waiver with regard to the distance from a school. I was quite surprised to see that because I thought there was a lot more distance. There's a business between the back of the shopping center and the school. The school has like a 6-foot fence all around it. And so anyhow, I was just surprised to see that. And I suppose it was the officer that did the posting that stated that the school was within 300 feet of, I mean, sorry, the business was within 300 feet of Milagro. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, because I didn't see the letter that was sent over from ABC, but generally that's the case. It's the officer that works for the State Department that does all the inspections and then does the postings for the businesses. So anyhow, I was surprised to see that, and the one business that I could think of that's close by that's across the street is Espiritu Pizza. It's the only one that I can identify that sells liquor. And, those are just my comments. I certainly did not go through what Mr. Vallejos did. I wasn't prepared to give you citations or anything like that. So those would be my comments.
No, that's fine. And I appreciate that. I'm kind of looking at the letter from regulation and licensing right now to see if it specifically discusses the waiver portion.
So our GIS team, the state didn't notify it as within 300 feet. Our GIS team, they mapped it as 300. It's hitting the property, and the GIS maps included with the packet for your reference, Adela.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can go and look at that, and it shows it's on the property line of Carlos Gilbert.
I see. Milagro.
Or yeah, Milagro, sorry.
Okay. And that's what I was thinking, Madam Hearing Officer, that it was the property line, because there is quite a bit of property behind. And like I said, there's a 6-foot fence around the entire school.
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Alex, did we receive any comments from anybody regarding the requested waiver?
There were no written comments received, and nobody is currently in the waiting room.
And I'll note that a letter did go to the school as well. So they were notified of this application and of this hearing as well. So Mr. Rand, what I'd like to do is the same thing. We can approve the waiver of the distance, and then the restaurant A beer and wine license that looked in order. So what will happen is your application will be forwarded. I'll do my written hearing officer report. Your application will be forwarded to the governing body for their consideration. There will be one condition placed on the application, and that is that the applicant comply with all city ordinances. And do you have any problem with that?
No, certainly not.
Okay. So then I'll prepare the hearing officer report, and I'll send that over, and it'll be forwarded to the governing body.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. It's really nice to meet you. And thank
Nice
you,
to meet
Alex.
you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And Alex, I don't think we have anything else on our agenda this afternoon. So we will adjourn the meeting at 4:19 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here.